This is Hoosier Ag Today. I'm Andy Eubank with the morning edition on the 13th of October. It is a Tuesday morning. We have the latest Indiana farm news for you here on our morning program. Also a look back at yesterday's markets. Mixed, overall pretty quiet. Analysis is coming up as well with Bill Gentry from Risk Management Commodities. And a look ahead with Ryan Martin's Indiana Farm Forecast. Coming up in the news, Indiana farm fatalities were up last year. The new report is out. We'll hear from Bill Field. And also agriculture could be the key to passage of TPP. Gary Truitt reports on the morning edition of Hoosier Ag Today.
Indiana Farm Bureau needs you. It's critical for your farm and family that your voice be heard daily. Farm Bureau membership tells legislators that Indiana agriculture stands together on property tax issues, farmland annexation, and water rules. Protect your livelihood and children's future by going online to infb.org/join or call 1-800-FARM-BUREAU. infb.org/join or call 1-800-FARM-BUREAU. Your membership brings value and benefits, but more importantly, it adds your voice to that of your neighbors and friends. Don't stand on the sidelines. Be heard on local, state, and national issues. We'll show you how. Indiana Farm Bureau needs you. Go to infb.org/join or call 1-800-FARM-BUREAU.
This is Hoosier Ag Today. I'm Andy Eubank reporting on Indiana agriculture, brought to you by the DuPont Pioneer Agronomy Report, with timely reports from across the state during this harvest each week on this station and at the agronomy page at HoosierAgToday.com. Harvest in the Midwest continues to move at a fast clip, with many areas unfazed by any kind of weather delays. With all that equipment on the county roads and in Indiana farm fields, Bill Field at Purdue is optimistic for a relatively safe harvest season once it is wrapped up.
Boy, it looks like it's moving really fast. The weather has been incredible. There's been an awful lot of it accomplished over the last couple of weeks. And there's a lot going on now, and the weather still looks pretty good. And I think we're going to see a fairly safe harvest. I know there's been a couple of incidents, but overall, the number of cases we've seen this year compared to last year when we had so much water and mud and everything, that I think it's going to be a lot better year.
Field is with Purdue's Agricultural Safety and Health Program, and the new 2014 Indiana Farm Fatality Summary has just been released. The big issue leading to deaths on the farm continues to be tractor overturns.
If you look at the data over the years, overturning of tractors are the number one killer of farms on farms today, and they attribute to an awful lot of very serious injuries, entrapments under machines. But if you look at the data there, you'll be amazed by how many of them are over the age of 60 and how old some of these victims are. And they're operating typically older machines, doing mundane chores around the farm. It just exposes them to a high risk of overturn.
There were 25 farm-related deaths in Indiana last year. That's an increase over the 18 in 2013. But the report explains that a downtrend in the frequency of Indiana farm-related deaths since 1970 continues. The text of the recently completed Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement has not yet been released, but that has not stopped members of Congress from taking positions on the trade deal. As Gary Truitt reports, farmers may be the key to getting the agreement through Congress.
President Obama is facing stiff opposition from within his own party to the trade deal that involves over 40% of the world's economy. Mr. Obama has said strong support for TPP from farmers will be needed.
One of the great things about the American farm community is that it's in every state, and it represents districts that are both Republican predominant and Democratic predominant, and that's why typically you get strong bipartisan support for farm legislation. And I think that if the agricultural community is strong and pushing on this issue, that will be an enormous base from which we can get this thing passed.
According to the USDA, if TPP is adopted, farm exports will increase by as much as $12 billion.
This is going to be a boon for American farmers and ranchers for not just a year from now or 2 years from now, but for the next decade, the next 2 decades.
And that's why the president said agriculture must get behind this deal. As Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack pointed out, most farm groups are already on board.
It's across the board, people seeing the benefits of this, and I think we just have to continue to do
education and continue to provide the information, because people will be able to see what I see, which is that this is an historic opportunity for ag.
But the National Farmers Union has announced it is strictly opposed to the deal, and the dairy industry is taking a wait-and-see approach. Congress will not be able to make any changes in the provisions of the deal, but will simply agree or disagree with a simple yes or no vote. That, however, is not likely to come until next year. I'm Gary Truitt.
And I'm Andy Eubank. Hoosier Ag Today, Indiana's Farm Network. Now here's our Hoosier Ag Today Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin
with a look at Hoosier Ag Today's Indiana Farm Forecast from the Wells Fargo Forecast Center. Current surface map shows that we are behind one strong frontal boundary. The other one that holds back the coldest air coming in out of Canada appears to want to pass by mostly to our north. Don't get me wrong. We are going to be seeing cooler air in here the next few days, definitely much cooler than what we saw as we finished out the weekend and moved through yesterday. But then again, this is now moving into mid-October. You kind of got to expect that we're going to be seeing temperatures back down closer to where they should be. As we move forward, I don't see a major blast of well below normal air here in the short term. As a matter of fact, now that the front is through, I'm not really concerned about precipitation. I think we're dry through at least Thursday. Where things get a little bit tricky will be as another weather system tries to form almost right on top of the Great Lakes as we go into the Friday-Saturday time frame. It might be enough to, well, it definitely will be enough to trigger cloud cover. But will it be enough to trigger decent precipitation? Right now, I like rainfall totals of 1/10 to maybe 0.5 of an inch up over Michigan. Things get a little bit more squirrely as we move farther south. I think that a large chunk of the Hoosier State here will not get anything as we go from Friday into Saturday. But stuff that does pop up, especially up north, might be limited to a few hundredths to maybe 1/10 or 2. Coverage at this point I don't like any better than about 40%. So, yeah, I'm not ready to completely stand up and stake myself to a "it will not rain" claim. But by the same token, I'm not going to stand here and say that we've got a good chance of moisture either. We've been dry for so long. I really think that most of the weather systems that try and move in here are going to have to bring a lot more moisture to the party in order to promote good rainfall over a large part of the area. So that being said, we'll keep an eye open. You may want to keep the umbrella handy, and you may want to look at the Friday, early Saturday, let's say Friday midday, early Saturday time frame as being the biggest iffy part of this forecast. After that, we're dry again for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Honestly, I think we're dry right on through Tuesday of next week. As we go into the 21st, got a nice front that will be sweeping across the entirety of the Corn Belt. It does look like it crosses the entire state of Indiana as well. I like rainfall totals here, mostly 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I will grant you there could be some thunderstorms pop up maybe down near the Ohio River Valley that put a few areas slightly higher than that. I like coverage at about 75% of the state as well. Looks like a good front. This front makes sense to me because I've been talking about some cooler air coming in around the 22nd, 23rd time frame. Models still aren't saying it's a big push of cool air, but the frontal boundary itself looks good. And the most interesting thing to me is what this front does farther off to the south and west. So as we go then into the 24th, 25th, we see plenty of moisture coming up across Texas. I think the old boundary stalls in here, and we're going to be seeing action move right on up. In other words, another system moving in around the 25th may actually have better moisture. We were talking yesterday, could do another 1/2 inch, and I think we could see another big push of moisture around the 27th. So we're going to flip the script probably at midweek next week, go from being a pattern that has these nice long dry stretches to one that may not be exceptionally wet, but dry periods in between light rain events are going to be much narrower, much shorter. So what harvest is left as we get into midweek of next week? It may be a little bit more of a nibble here, nibble there kind of deal to finish it off. That's the way things are stacking up this morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin on Hoosier Ag Today, Indiana's Farm Network.
This is Hoosier Ag Today and the Monday Farm Market Review. I'm Andy Eubank. Mixed markets on Monday to open up a new week, and the update is brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply the best value in the seed industry. 800-708-2676, online, seedconsultants.com. Mid-session, I checked in Monday with Bill Gentry at Risk Management Commodities to find out what was propping up the bean market, the only one working higher on Monday. He agreed there was carryover momentum from the Friday acreage drop by USDA.
Yeah, it definitely lent us some support, and I think realistically, now that it looks like we're over the halfway point in harvest or approaching it quickly, the bean market's probably going to release a little bit of pressure. Right now, we've got the January beans up about 7.5 cents. Looking at the harvest, like I say, over the hump, we also have meal advancing nicely, up about $3. Demand there starting to perk up a little bit. An additional note is oil trade is firmed on a little bit of recovery in the palm market. The ringgit seems to be lending a little bit of support. The corn market, as I mentioned, mildly defensive. Harvest progress there continuing nicely. The weather looks pretty open, so I guess the corn is in motion. And then right behind that, looking at the wheat market's mildly defensive, but is catching a bid on dips. And I think realistically, the wheat market's got some value here following the European markets. Looking at the livestock markets, both hogs and cattle are up nicely today. Demand side, especially in the hogs, as this is pork month for hogs, demand seems to be shaping up nicely. And we also think that the second half of this month may show some featured beef prices at the counter. So we're cautiously optimistic on the demand side of the equation.
Let's go back to the corn market, down a penny or so today, and also crude oil is down $1. Is that putting a little bit of added pressure on the corn market?
It could be. When you look at the crude market being down $1, $1.30, that probably tells us that the world market is not as healthy as we'd like it to be. I think the Chinese news, although they are back off of holiday late last week, is not fully, has not really regained its composure. So there's some hiccups there. The corn market being down a fraction, I tend to think that that's mostly harvest pressure. Being down 1 3/4 pennies, especially after Friday's report, is no great big thing. I think that one of the things that most of us can take away is that we've probably solidified the recent lows as pretty good chart support, and we can be cautiously optimistic that we've turned things from a downtrend to a sideways trend, with cautious optimism that we may look for an advance sometime in the near future.
Now, overall, as far as news to drive the market, that report on Friday, that's about it. Nothing real substantial driving any of the markets or pushing them one way or another today.
No, I think that the idea of maybe a sideways choppy trade is what we've got on the horizon. And what we're really looking is for anecdotal evidence that the yields that the USDA has been talking about may be trimmed somewhat in the not too distant future. We think that the November crop report should show a yield reduction of consequence for corn in particular. Beans, we're not so confident.
Bill Gentry with Risk Management Commodities, and the toll-free office number there, 866-837-9027. Now the final numbers in Chicago. The corn market did stay above the 380 support level, barely 380 3/4, down 2 points on the day. March corn 391 3/4, off 1 3/4. Beans fell off, but still finished on the plus side. November 887.5, up 1 3/4. Jan beans up 2 cents to 892.5, and down 2.5 on the December wheat, 506 3/4. And that is a look at the Monday markets, and that is a wrap-up for our morning edition on this Tuesday morning. The delayed export inspections come out today, 1 day delayed because of the closure at USDA yesterday for Columbus Day. Also later today, it is the crop progress report. We'll get an update on what the markets are doing today on our midday podcast later on after 11 o'clock Central and 12 noon Eastern Time. Also analysis with Arlen Suderman, scheduled to join me from Water Street Solutions. We hope you'll join us then, and we do hope you have a good Tuesday and a safe harvest as it rolls on. I'm Andy Eubank. Hoosier Ag Today, Indiana's Farm Network.